Hi there. In this position, from the SciTech U.S. Masters Open in 1998, with the white pieces, Jennifer Shahade, rated 2185 at the time, and with the black pieces, our favorite commentator, Maurice Ashley. In this position, Jennifer had the move, and she played the enterprising move G4, right? The sacrificing the pawn for open lines. Knight takes d4, rook hg1, and just gives up the bishop pair. But in exchange for giving up the bishop pair and the pawn, she has open g file. Now, is that enough? Probably not, but it's dangerous to face over the board. Again, continue king h8 by Maurice, and Jennifer here played the move with knight f3. Now, perhaps she wanted to transfer the knight over to the queen side, king side rather, or just avoid trading pieces. The move I prefer here is a little faster, and it's e5. All right, I like e5. Just opening up immediate lines for the bishop on d3. And the reason why is because after you sacrifice a pawn like that, and you got rid of the dark square bishops, you have to show improved compensation for this pawn. And I think that the immediate e5 is better here. Now, if knight takes d4, queen takes d4, d takes e5, f takes e5, say bishop c6, with the idea of trading off queens, of course. Queen g4, powerful move threatening checkmate. Rook g8 is forced, and then bishop h7, queen c7, and then you get the exchange. And I think here white is a little bit better afterwards. So e5 is definitely an interesting alternative. Jennifer played knight f3, and general principles like positions you don't want to trade the pieces. But after knight f3, um, it gives time. You always got to think about time in chess. When you're maneuvering your pieces, you're still giving time. And what can black do with this time? Well, Maurice could play b4 here, right? Knight e2, and even move like queen a5 here, right? Typical Sicilian ideas, right? With the idea of bringing the rook on the f file out. So for instance, now if e5, rook f d8 here. Oh wow, sorry about that. That would actually be a blunder. Queen e4. Yes, yes, that was yep. Queen e4. Sorry about that. I had the idea. I'm glad my tactical eyes are still working. Somebody would have definitely said something in the comment section. Oh, that variation loses or whatever. So, so uh, instead of rook f d8, let's just play d takes e5 here. Pretty dangerous for black still though. Right, rook takes g7 is on the cards. Right, that's the first move that comes to mind. Another idea after knight f3 is b4 again, and let's say knight e2 instead of queen a5. Let's play in the center with e5, and then here Jennifer could play a move like f5 here. Right, so there's some compensation for this pawn. Instead of b4, Maurice wanted to shut the lid on things and play f5. And after this, the game takes on more of a positional feel. After e takes, and so these immediate king side threats are gone. But this isolated pawn appears back on the board. Now, Jennifer decided to play the move knight d4. Maurice takes, queen takes, and after bishop f6, Maurice gives back the pawn. but in exchange for damaging the queen side protection of the king. Again, it's pretty even here. But Maurice gets a little initiative going. Rook f6, queen e5, queen f8. This gets the queen off the same uh, file as the rook on d1. And now after bishop c4, threatening the bishop on d7, Maurice plays rook e8, so he gets his other rook into play. And here, Jennifer makes this decision to give up her queen and plays rook takes d7, rook takes e5, f takes e5, and then bishop takes c4, e takes f6. So she decides to go into this ending where Maurice has the queen versus the two rooks. Unfortunately, here it's actually winning for black because there's too many. Black has too many pawns on the king side. So going back, so she basically just misjudged the position. It wasn't that she missed it or anything. She just misjudged it. She probably said two rooks for the queen. That's usually winning, and didn't factor in all the aspects, like the pawn structure and things like that. So instead of rook takes d7, also respectable is just queen c7, and let's say rook c8, queen d7, and then rook takes c4. And black is a little bit better. Black has a little better pawn structure, and can attack these pawns on the c file and stuff. And also the f pawn is and the h pawn is weak. So black has a little bit more objects to attack in white's camp. All right, his pawns are better, and that gives black the edge in this position. So rook d7, and now we get to this ending right here. Queen takes f6, rook d4, queen e5, rook gd1, and here Maurice goes with this check. The king moves, and now decides to take the pawn. So you see what I'm saying? You have these three free pass pawns. The only thing Maurice has to worry about here is just getting checkmated because of his king. Rook takes c4, and now queen e2 is played, attacking the rook. Rook d3, king h7, rook c d4, king g6, and now c4. So Jennifer's trying to push her pawns also. Queen e1 with the escort of the rooks. King g5, c5, queen e5. Now c6 here is a good move. Not good, but better than what was played. So c3 was played here. Yeah, this move c5 was just a miscalculation. Again, time trouble might have been in the midst here. Perhaps safer would have just been a move like rook c3, making sure the pawn was getting the rook behind the passed pawn. So, for example, rook c3, and I don't know, queen g1, right, attacking this guy. And let's say rook c d3, preparing to push. And this queen c5. And the battle continues. So c5 is just a mistake, because after queen e5 now there's no way to protect the pawn, both the pawn and the rook at the same time. So c3, and now that pawn gets snatched off, and that was basically white's only ransom basically. So she lost that. G6. And now she's totally on defensive. She tries to push the remaining c pawn, but it's too late. This pawn is these pawns on the king side march forward, and after g5, Jennifer resigned.